ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवति उत्तमश्लोके नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1. Questions by Vidura. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Evam etat pura prushto maitreyo bhagavan kila kshatra vanam pravishtena yaktva swagraham riddhimat. Shukadeva Goswami said, after renouncing his prosperous home and entering the forest, King Vidura, the great devotee, asked these questions of this question of his grace Maitreya Rishi. Yadvayam mantra kridvo Bhagavan Akhileshwaraha Pauravendra Graha Hitva Praviveshatma Sat Kritam. What else is there to say about the residential house of Pandavas? Sri Krishna, the Lord of everything, acted as your minister. He used to enter that house as if it were his own, and he did not take any care of Duryodhana's house. Raja Vacha Kutra Kshatur Bhagavata Maitreyenasha Sangamaha Kadava Saha Samvada Etad Varnaya Naha Prabho. The king asked Shukadeva Goswami, where and when did the meeting and discussion take place between Saint Vidura and His Grace Maitreya Muni? Kindly oblige, my lord, and describe this to us. Nahyapla Nahyalparthodayastasya vidurashyama tasmin variyasi prashnaha sadhu vadopabhrahmitaha. Saint Vidura was a great and pure devotee of the Lord, and therefore his questions to his grace Rishi Maitreya must have been very purposeful on the highest level and approved by learned circles. Suta Uvacha स एवं ऋषिवर्योऽयं पृष्टो राज्ञा परीक्षिता प्रत्याह तं शुबहुवित् प्रीतात्मा श्रूयताम् iti. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, the great sage Sri Suta Goswami said, the great sage Shukadeva Goswami was highly experienced and was pleased with the king. Thus, being questioned by the king, he said to him, please hear the topics attentively. I see some comments. Someone can't see the text. Is it still valid?
Krishna
Everyone
Prabhuji,
can see?
we can see, but maybe Mataji can log off and log in. She should be able to see.
Okay. Let me once again check. Yeah, from my end, it says everyone can see and share. Shri Sukha Uvacha Yada tu Raja Swasutan Asadun Pushnan na dharmena vinashta drishtihi Bhratur yavisyasya Sutan vibandun praveshya lakshya bhavane dadaha. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons, and thus he set fire to the Lakhor house to burn his fatherless nephews, the Pandavas. यदा सभायां कुरुदेवदेव्याः केशाभिमर्शं सुतकर्मगर्ह्यं न वारयाम् आस नृपः स्नुष्यायाः स्वास्यैर्हरन्त्याः कुच kunkumani. The king did not forbid his son Dushyasana's abominable action of grabbing the hair of Draupadi, the wife of godly king Yudhishthira, even though her tears were washed the red dust on her breast. द्यूते त्व अधर्मेण जितस्य साधोः सत्यावलम्बस्य वनगतस्य न याचतो दात् समयेन दायं तमोजुषानो Yad Ajata Shatroho. Yudhishthira, who was born without any enemy, was unfairly defeated in gambling. But because he had taken the vow of truthfulness, he went off to the forest. When he came back in due course and begged the return of his rightful share of the kingdom, he was refused by Dhritarashtra, who was overwhelmed by illusion. यदा च पार्थ प्रहितः सभायां जगद्गुरु यानि जगादकृष्णः नतानि पुंसाम् अमृताय नानि राजोरु मेने क्षत punyaleshaha. Lord Krishna was sent by Arjuna into the assembly as the spiritual master of the whole world, and although his words were heard by some, like Bhishma, as pure nectar, it was not so for the others, who were completely bereft of the last farthing of past pious works. The king, Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana, did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously. यदोपहूतो भवनं प्रविष्टो मन्त्राय पृष्ट किल पूर्वजेन यताह तन्मन्त्र तृषां वरीयान् यन् मन्त्रिणो वैधुरीकं वदन्ति. When Vidura was invited by his elder brother Dhritarashtra for consultation, he entered the house and gave instructions which were exactly to the point. His advice is well known, and instructions by Vidura are approved by expert ministers of state. अजातशत्रो प्रतियच्छदायं तितिक्षतो दुर्विषहं तवागः सहानुजो यत्र वृकोदराहिः स्वसन् रुषा यद् alam bibeshi. Vidura said, "You must now return the legitimate share to Yudhishthira, who has no enemies and who has been forbearing through untold sufferings due to your offenses. He is waiting with his younger brothers, among whom is the revengeful Bhima, breathing heavily like a snake. Surely you are afraid of him." पार्तांस्तु देवो भगवान् मुकुन्दो गृहीतवान् सक्षिति देवदेवः आस्ते स्वपूर्यां यदुदेवदेवो विनिर्जिताशेष नददेव देवः. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, has accepted the sons of Pritha as his kinsmen, and all the kings of the world are with Lord Sri Krishna. He is present in his home with all his family members, the kings, and the princes of Yadu dynasty who have conquered an unlimited number of rulers, and he is their Lord. स एष दोषः पुरुषः विद् आस्ते ग्रहान् प्रविष्टोऽयम् अपत्यमत्या पुष्णासि कृष्णाद् विमुखो गतश्रीस्त्यजास्व असैवं कुलकौशलाय. You are maintaining offense personified Duryodhana as your infallible son, but he is envious of Lord Krishna. And because you are thus maintaining a non devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good to the whole family. इति उचिवांस्तत्र सुयोधनेन प्रवृद्धकोपशुरिताधरेण असत्कृतः सत् स्पृहणीयशीलः क्षत्ता सकर्णानुज शोबलेन. While speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhana, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhana was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle Shakuni. क एनम् अत्रोपजुहाव जिह्मं दास्याः सुतं यद् बलिनैव पुष्टः तस्मिन् प्रतीपः परकृत्य आस्ते निर्वास्यताम् आशु पुरा श्वसानः. Who asked him to come here? This son of a kept mistress? He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath. स्वयं धनुर्ध्वारि निधाय मायां भ्रातुः पुरो मर्मषु ताडितोऽपि स इत्थम् अत्युल्बन कर्ण बाणैर्गतव्यथो याद uru manayanah. Thus, being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidura placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's palace. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme. स निर्गतः कौरवपुण्यलब्धो गजाह्वयात् तीर्थपदः पदानि अन्वाक्रमत् पुण्यचिकीर्षयो नोर्व्याम् अधिष्ठितो यानि सहस्रमूर्तिः. By his piety, Vidura achieved the advantages of pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapura, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimages, which are the Lord's lotus feet. With a desire to gain a high order of pious life, he traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated. पुरेषु पुण्योपवनाद्रिकुञ्जेष्व अपङ्कतोयेषु सरित्सरःषु अनन्तलिङ्गै समलङ्कृतेषु चचार तीर्थायतनेष्व अनन्या. He began to travel alone, thinking only of Krishna, through various holy places like Ayodhya, Dwaraka, and Mathura. He traveled where the grove, hill, orchard, river, and lake are all pure and sinless, and where the form of the unlimited decorate the temples. Thus he performed the pilgrim's progress. गां पर्यतं मेध्य विविक्त वृत्तिः सदा प्लुतोधः दहः शयनो वधातु वधूतः अलक्षितः स्वैरवधूतवेषो व्रतानि चेरे हरितोषणानि. While so traversing the earth, he simply performed duty to please the Supreme Lord Hari. His occupation was pure and independent. He was constantly sanctified by taking his bath in holy places, although he was in the dress of a mendicant and had no hair dressing nor a bed on which to lie. Thus, he was always unseen by his various relatives. इत्थं व्रजन् भारतम् एव वर्षं कालेन यावद् गतवान् प्रभासं तावच्चशास क्षितिम् एकचक्राम् एकातपत्रम् अजितेन पार्थः. Thus, when he was in the land of Bharatavarsha traveling to all the places of pilgrimage, he visited Prabhasa Kshetra. At that time, Maharaj Yudhishthir was the emperor and held the world under one military strength and one flag. तत्रार्थ शुश्राव सुहृद्विनष्टिं वनं यथा वेणुज वह्नि संहृष्यं सम्प्रद संस्पर्धया दग्धम् अथानुशोषन् सरस्वतीं प्रत्यग्याय तूष्णीम्. At the place of pilgrimage at Prabhas, it came to his knowledge that all his relatives have died due to violent passion, just as an entire forest burns due to fire produced by friction of bamboos. After this, he proceeded west where the river Saraswati flows. तस्यां त्रितस्योशनासो मनश्च पृथ्योरथाग्निरसितास्य वायोः तीर्थं सुदासस्य गवां गुहस्य यच्छ्राद्धदेवस्य स आसिसेवे. On the bank of river Saraswati, there were 11 places of pilgrimage, namely Trita, Ushana, Manu, Pruthu, Agni, Asita, Vayu, Sudasa, Go, Guha, and Shraddha Deva. Vidura visited all of them and duly performed rituals. अन्यानि चेह द्विजदेवदेवैः कृतानि नानायतानानि विष्णोः प्रत्यङ्गमुख्यान्तिकमन्दिराणि यद्दर्शनात् कृष्णम् अनुस्मरन्ति There were also many other temples of various forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, established by great sages and demigods. These temples were marked with the chief emblems of the Lord, and they remained one always of the reminded one always of the original personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. ततस्व अतिव्रज्य सुराष्ट्रं रुद्धं सौवीर मत्स्यान् कुरुजाङ्गलांश्च कालेन तावद् यमुनाम् उपेत्य तत्रोद्धवं भागवतं ददर्श. Thereafter he passed through very wealthy provinces like Surat, Sauvira and Matsya and through western India known as Kurujanga Kurujangala. Yeah. At last he reached the bank of Yamuna, where he happened to meet Uddhava, the great devotee of Lord Krishna. स वासुदेवानुचरं प्रशान्तं बृहस्पतेः प्राक् तनयं प्रतीतम् आलिङ्ग्यगाधं प्रणयेन भद्रं स्वानाम् अप्रजत् aprachad bhagavat prajanam. Then, due to his great love and feeling, Vidura embraced him, Uddhava, who was a constant companion of Lord Krishna and formerly a great student of Brihaspati. Vidura then asked him for news of the family of Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. कच्चित् पुराणो पुरुषो स्वनाभ्यापाद्यानुवृत्त्येह किलावतीर्णौ आसात उर्व्याः कुशलं विधाय कृत क्षणौ कुशलं सूरगेः. Please tell me whether the original personality of Godhead who incarnated themselves at the request of Brahma, who is born out of the lotus flower from the Lord, and who have increased the prosperity of the world by elevating everyone, are doing well in the house of Surasena? कच्चित् कुरूणां परमः सुहृन्नो भामः स आस्ते सुखमङ्गशौरिः यो वै स्वश्राणां पितृवाद ददाति वरान् वदान्यो वरतर्पणेन. Please tell me whether the best friend of the Kurus, our brother-in-law Vasudeva, is doing well. He is very munificent. He is like a father to his sisters and he is always pleasing to his wives. कच्चित् वरुथाधिपतिर्यधा sorry यदूनां प्रद्युम्न आस्ते सुखमङ्गवीरः यं रुक्मिणी भगवतोऽभिलेभे आराध्य विप्रान् स्मरन् आदिसर्गे. O Uddhava, please tell me, how is Pradyumna, the commander in chief of Yadus, who was Cupid in a former life? Rukmini bore him as her son from Lord Krishna by the grace of Brahmanas, whom she pleased. कच्चित् सुखं शाश्वत वृष्णिभोज दाशार्हकानम् अधिपः स आस्ते यमभ्यसिञ्चित् शतपत्रनेत्रो नृपा नृपासनानां परिहृत्य दूरात्. O my friend, tell me whether Ugrasena, the king of Satvatas, Vrishnis, Bhojas, and Dasharhas, is now doing well. He went far away from his kingdom, leaving aside all hopes of his royal throne, but Lord Krishna again installed him. कच्चिद्धरे सौम्य सुतः सदृक्ष आस्ते घृणी रथिनां साधु सांबः असूतयं जाम्बवती वृताध्या देवं गुह्यं योऽम्बिकाया धृतोऽग्रे. O gentle one, does Samba fare well? He exactly resembles the son of the personality of Godhead. In a previous birth, he was born as Kartikeya in the womb of his wife of Lord Shiva, and now he has been born in the womb of Jambavati, the most enriched wife of Krishna. क्षेमं च कच्चिद् युयुधाननास्ते यः फाल्गुणाल् लब्धधनुरहस्यः लेभेऽङ्गसादक्षज सेवयैव गतिं तदीयां यतिभिर्दुरापाम्. O Uddhava, does Yuyudhan, Yuyudhana Sorry. O Uddhava, does Yuyudhana fare well? He learned the intricacies of the military art from Arjuna and attained the transcendental destination, which is very difficult to reach even for great renouncers. कच्चित् बुधः स्वस्ति अनमीव आस्ते स्व स्वफल्कपुत्रो भगवत् प्रपन्नः यः कृष्णपादाङ्कितमार्गपां शुष्व अचेष्टतः प्रेम विभिन्नधैर्यः. Please tell me whether Akrura, the son of Swafalka, is doing well. He is a faultless soul surrendered unto the personate of Godhead. He once lost his mental equilibrium due to his ecstasy of transcendental love and fell down on the dust of a road which was marked with the footprints of Lord Krishna. कच्चिच्छिवं देवकभोजपुत्र्या विष्णुप्रजाया इव देवमातुः या वै स्वगर्भेण दधार देवं त्रयी यथा यज्ञवितानम् अर्थम्. As the Vedas are the reservoir of sacrificial purposes, so the daughter of King Devaka Bhojak conceived the supreme personhood of Godhead in her womb, as did the mother of the demigods. Is she, Devaki, doing well? Apishvid अपिष्विद् आस्ते भगवान् सुखं वो यः सात्वतां कामदुग्धो निरुद्धः यम् आमनन्ति स्म हि शब्दयोनिं मनोमयं सत्त्वतुरीयतत्त्वम्. May I inquire whether Aniruddha is doing well? He is the fulfiller of all the desires of the pure devotees and has been considered from yore to be the cause of Rigveda, the creator of the mind and the fourth plenary expansion of Vishnu. अपिस्विद् अन्ये च निजात्मदैवम् अनन्यवृत्त्या समनुवृता ये हृदीकसत्यात्मजा चारुदेष्ण गदादयः स्वस्ति चरन्ति सौम्या. O Saubhavan, others such as Hridika, Charudeshna, Gada, and the son of Satyabhama, who accept Lord Sri Krishna as the soul of the self and thus follow his path without deviation, are they well? अपिस्वदोर्भ्याम् अतिस्पदोर्भ्यां विजयाच्युताभ्यां धर्मेण धर्मः परिपाति सेतुं दुर्योधनोत्तप्यत यत् सभ्यायां साम्राज्यलक्ष्म्या विजयानुवृत्त्या. Also, let me inquire whether Maharaj Yudhishthira is now maintaining the kingdom according to religious principles and with respect for the path of religion. Formerly, Duryodhana was burning with envy because Yudhishthira was being protected by the arms of Krishna and Arjuna as if they were his own arms. किं वा कृताघेष्व अघम् अत्यमर्षि भीमो हि वद दीर्घतमं व्यमु व्यमुञ्चत् यस्याङ्घ्रिपातं रणभूर्न मार्गं गदायाश्चरतो विचित्रम्. Please tell me whether the unconquerable Bhima, who is like a cobra, has released his long cherished anger upon the sinners. The field of battle could not tolerate even the wonderful playing of his club when he stepped on the path. कच्चिद् यशोदारथ यूतपानां गाण्डीव धन्वोपरतय परतारिरास्ते अलक्षितो यच्चर कूट गूढो मायां किरातो गिरिसस्तुतोष. Please tell me whether Arjuna, whose bow bears the name Gandhiva and who is always famous amongst the chariot warriors for vanquishing his enemies, is doing well. He once satisfied Lord Shiva by conquering him with arrows when Shiva came as an unidentified false hunter. यमाम् उत स्वित् तनयो पृथयाः पार्थैर्वृतौ पक्ष्मभिरक्षिणीव रेमात उद्धाय मृधे स्वरिक्तं पराग सपर्णाव इव वज्रि वक्त्राम्. Vaktrat are the twin brothers who are protected by their brothers doing well. Just as the eye is always protected by the eyelid, they are protected by the sons of Pritha, who snatched back their rightful kingdom from the hands of their enemy Duryodhana, just as Garuda snatched nectar from the mouth of Indra, the thunderbolt carrier. अहो प्रतापि ध्रियतेर्भकार्थे राजर्षिवर्येण विनापि तेन यस्त्व एकवीरो धीरतो विजि विजिज्ञे धनुर्द्वितीयः ककुभश्चतुर्षः O my lord, is Pritha still living? She lived only for the sake of her fatherless children. Otherwise, it was impossible for her to live without King Pandu, who was the greatest commander and who alone conquered the four directions simply with the help of a second bow. सौम्यानुशोचेतम् अधः पतन्तं भ्रात्रे परेताय विदुद्रुहे यः निर्यापितो येन सहृत्स्वपूर्या अहं स्वपुत्रान् समनुव्रतेन. O gentleman, I simply lament for him, Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his brother after death. By him I was driven out of my own house, although I am his sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own sons. सोऽहं हरेर्मर्त्य विडम्बनेन दृशो नृणां चालयतो विधातुः नान्योपलक्ष्यः पदवीं प्रसादात् चरामि पश्यन् गतः विस्मयोऽत्र. I am not astonished at this, having traveled over the world without being seen by others. The activities of the personality of Godhead, which are like those of a man in this mortal world, are bewildering to others. But I know of His greatness by His grace, and thus I am happy in all respects. नूनं नृपाणां त्रिमदोत्पतानां महीमुहुश्चालयतां चमूभिः वधात् प्रपन्नार्तिजिहीर्षयेषो अपि उपैक्षताघं भगवान् कुरूणाम्. Despite his being the Lord and being always willing to relieve the distress of the sufferers, he, Krishna, refrained from killing the Kurus, although they committed all sorts of sins, and although he saw other kings constantly agitating the earth by their strong military movements carried out under the dictation of three kinds of false pride. अजस्य जन्मोत्पत्ता नाशनाय कर्माणि अकर्तुर्ग्रहणाय पुंसां नन्वन्यन्त को रहति देहयोगं परो गुणानाम् उत कर्मतन्त्रम्. The appearance of the Lord is manifested for the annihilation of the upstarts. His activities are transcendental and are enacted for the understanding of all persons. Otherwise, since the Lord is transcendental to all metal modes, what purpose could he serve by coming to earth? तस्य प्रपन्नाखिललोकपानाम् अवस्थितानाम् अनुशासने स्वे अर्थाय जातस्य यदुष्व अजस्य वार्तां सखे कीर्तया तीर्थकीर्तेः. O my friend, please therefore chant the glories of the Lord, who is meant to be glorified in the places of pilgrimage. He is unborn, and yet he appears by his causeless mercy upon the surrendered rulers of all parts of the universe. Only for their interest did he appear in the family of his unalloyed devotees of Yadus. Thus ends the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, titled Questions by Vidura. Hare Krishna. Oh, just to cover the um, what do you call the translations, it's taking almost half an hour. Mm. One approach here we could do is when the chapter is a little longer, we can maybe make it half. We go in two parts. But I just wanted to first ask you all what do you prefer?
Yes, Prabhuji, that is a good idea because anyway we are just reading, but hardly understanding the essence.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhu. When the chapter is too big, we can please do two part.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I just don't want that others are disappointed because yeah, we then may take longer time to finish. But I thought, okay, let's give some time when it's little longer to cover at least a few important verses. We will not cover again anyway, like in our Saturday sessions, in a full detail going to each. But we could go maybe half, like when it is 45, I think it's already long. If it is 25 to 30, 35, I think it's okay. But when it goes to 40 plus, maybe it's worth to split so that we can cover per parts at least few important verses. Mhm. Okay. And yeah, let's take 10 minutes if that's fine to cover few important points at least till verse 23, 2023. Yeah, if that's okay. All fine, ready? Because this chapter is also very, very nice to appreciate the great personality Sri Vidura. And it starts Evam etat pura prishto maitreya bhagavan kila shatra vanam pravishtena tyaktva sva graham riddhimat. He's saying Shukadev Goswami said after renouncing his home, King Vidura uh, asked questions to Maitreya. Taking this, so Parikshit Maharaj asked, okay, definitely it should be very, very important because these two are not ordinary persons, they are great devotees, great saints. So this is the same question, I think in ninth verse it is mentioned, I think ninth or some where it's mentioned the same question is asked by the sages in Naimisharanya. The Saunaka Rishi is asking the same question to Suta Goswami. So Suta Goswami is referring to the conversation that Parikshit Maharaj is telling to Sukadev Goswami is telling to Parishit Maharaj about what? About the conversation between Maitreya Rishi and Vidurji. Yeah, so that is the context. Yeah, sometimes when it is so vast, na, we may not be able to know uh, from where it starts. Yeah, so here. So Vidura took the opportunity to meet Rishi Maitreya and discuss transcendental knowledge. This is the point here, and that's why it's very interesting for Parikshit Maharaj to know. And so King asked Shukadev Goswami, where and when did the meeting take place? Kindly oblige, my lord, and describe this to me. Why? Because it's very, very nice. Because two great souls are discussing, and verse number 4 is telling Vidurasya Amala Atmanaha. Who is Vidura? He is not ordinary. He was a great and pure devotee. Tasmin, oh, I forgot. Na he alpardho dayastasya Vidurasya Amala Atmanaha. Tasmin variyasi prashna sadhu. So what point here is that therefore his question definitely is very, very important. In the purport Prabhupada is mentioning, the questions and answers among different people, different classes of men have different value. Uh, so we may see how sometimes we may hear no question is silly question, yeah, but it depends who is asking question and it depends on what they will be asking. Because inquiries about mercantile men in a business exchange cannot be expected to be highly purposeful in spiritual values. So we may say, hey, it's everything is so valuable. No, questions and answers by different class of men can be guessed by the caliber of the persons concerned. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was asking Krishna, yeah, and the supreme devotee, the Lord admitted Arjuna to be his devotee and friend, and therefore any sane man can guess that the discussion on the topic of Bhakti Yoga system was on about that. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, one is advised to approach a bona fide spiritual master when one is actually inclined to ask question from an elevated level of spiritual understanding, which means One should have a very, very sincere, serious endeavor to ask question which can help him to advance spiritually. Otherwise, it is mentioned, a common man who has no interest in spiritual values has no need to approach a spiritual master just as a matter of following fashion. Not to prove that, oh, I have great interest, or not to show that I have close contact with sadhus. One should not do that. As a student, Maharaj Parikshit was serious about learning the science of God, and Sukadev Goswami was bona fide. Both of them knew the topics discussed by Vidura and Rishi Maitreya were elevated, and thus Maharaj Parikshit was very interested in learning from bona fide spiritual master. And then what is the question? The great sage Sukadev Goswami was highly experienced and was pleased with the king. And then he said, very, very important, Pritatma Sruyatam iti. So he's saying, please hear the topics attentively. And then the topics is starting with about King Dhritarashtra. King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires of to nourish his dishonest sons. So Dhritarashtra, who was not pure at heart, and of course, because of blindness, because of feeling, yeah, of not enjoying the same comfort, same value and prestige like his brother, younger brother Pandu. So that was so painful for Dhritarashtra. But when he had sons who were also dishonest, and thus he said, so through his son Dhritarashtra allowed everything. Yeah, ideally we can see that and king and prince both are given value by his by the king by the citizens of the kingdom, right? But it doesn't mean that a prince can tell whatever, he cannot dictate what the people should do. It is still to be done by the king. So if Dhritarashtra is doing something which is actually a desire of Duryodhana, it means it is still Dhritarashtra who is doing it. So that's why it said that King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons, and thus he set fire to the house to burn Pandavas. So here, I mean, again, in the purport, Prabhupada is mentioning Dhritarashtra was blind from birth, but his blindness in committing impious activities to support his dishonest son was a greater blindness than his physical lack of sight, because physical lack of sight does not bar one from spiritual progress. But when one is blind spiritually, even though physically fit, that blindness is dangerously detrimental to the progressive path of human life. So we might say, hey, oh Lord, why you have taken my eyes away, or why don't I have my eyes? Forget about that. We can engage in whatever state we are, so that we can always have the Lord in our heart and worship Him, serve Him, chant His name. So, but rather, if the other way, in the case of Dhritarashtra was not blind physically, but more than that, he was blind because of his desires. That was not right. Yeah. So the king did not forbid his son Dushyasan when he was grabbing the hair of Draupadi. Uh, so he was just silent. Though he is the king, he should have stopped. He didn't do it. Yudhishthira, who was born without any enemy, was unfairly defeated in gambling. Huh? So this is what. When he came back in due course and begged the return of his rightful share of kingdom, he was refused by Dhritarashtra, who was overwhelmed by illusion. Again, we may see it is Duryodhana, but because Dhritarashtra didn't exercise his power, this is because not that he was scared. It is not that, oh, what will happen? Will I lose my name? Will I lose my, what do you call it? Will I be insulted that, oh, my own son didn't hear to my words? No, it was that Dhritarashtra was so much attached to the throne. This is what we covered also when Vyasadev comes and asks Dhritarashtra, let's leave. Huh? Why are you staying here? In spite your sons are killed and you are under the protection of Pandavas. So that shows that he was attached. At last, the Pandavas demanded only 5 villages, one for each of the 5 brothers, but that was also refused by usurpers. This incident led to a war. In the purport, Prabhupada is mentioning, as Kshatriyas, the proper livelihood of Pandavas was only to rule and not to accept any other occupation. A Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya will not accept employment for his livelihood under any circumstance. It is not like us. Though I have done my master's in electronics and communications or computer science or IT, whatever, okay, let me do something else. So that livelihood. No, this is by nature. We are talking about the varnas are based on the nature. So the nature is saying that this is what they are, their duty, their dharma is. Hmm. Lord Krishna was sent by Arjuna into the assembly as the spiritual master of the whole world. Jagadguru, it is said, Sabhayam Jagadguru Yani Jagada Krishna. So the Lord is sent there, and although his words were heard by some, like Bhishma Dev, it was not so for the others who were completely bereft of last farthing of past pious works. This is very important. Uh, in the shloka, there, I mean, as I said, every shlok is so much to offer. If we so carefully, slowly read these purports or even verses, there is so much treasure available there. It says that the reason why they in the assembly there were some people who didn't listen, who didn't hear. It is why because it was not so for the others who were completely bereft of the last farthing of past pious works. Means whatever sukriti one has. Huh? In fact, the question is very clear. How come that Duryodhan can become a king? How could he become a king? This is because there was Sukriti. There is no doubt about it. Because of that, Sukriti is there, but after he is given the chance to, uh, in the human form, when he is envious, when he is so much impious, all whatever he is doing, he is not accumulating good piety, and whatever was existing, that is gone. This is very important. We may enjoy the privilege of being a human being in this life, where we are now hearing Bhagavatam is everything brilliant. But if we just think, hey, once upon a time I have heard Bhagavatam, which means all fine, now I can do anything. No, we can see what happened in the life of Duryodhana. The king, Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana, did not take the words of Lord Krishna very seriously. This may come a question. Krishna, if he comes and tell, I will listen, but not anyone else. But Krishna can come in any form. He can come in the form of a friend. He can come in the form of a guru. He can come in form of nature, in a form of so many ways. If we have the heart and eyes to see. Lord Krishna, in the purport, it says, Lord Krishna, who is the spiritual master of the entire universe, accepted the duty of a messenger and deputed by Arjuna went to the assembly of Dhritarashtra. Uh, this is what it says. But it again in the purport it says, but due to the exhaustion of pious results of their past deeds, Duryodhan or his father Dhritarashtra did not take the message very seriously. That is the way of persons who have no credit of pious deeds. This means if someone is doing something wrong, he is so much, it cannot happen. How could such a person who is in such a great privilege like a king can do this? It means very easy. It is that he has no more Sukriti. By past pious deeds, one may become the king of a country, but because the results of pious acts of Duryodhana and company were dwindling, it became evident from their actions that they were sure to lose the kingdom to the Pandavas. So that's how when Krishna, such a great person who is Jagat Guru, this is addressed in this word in this verse, has come to impart knowledge. What happened in the purport? The message of Godhead is always like nectar to the devotees, but it is just the opposite to the non-devotees. Just like sugar candy is always sweet to a healthy man, but it tastes very bitter to persons suffering from jaundice. Then comes, now what happens? Yado Pahuto Bhavanam Pravishto. When Vidura was invited by his elder brother, Dhritarashtra, for consultation, now whatever Vidura is saying is very much approved by the experts, ministers of the states. Why? Because it is said in purport, political suggestions by Vidura are known as expert, Just as in modern times, Pandit Chanakya is considered the authority in good counsel in both political and moral instructions. So, Vidura is saying, hey, Ajata Shatru Pratiyacha Dayam is saying, uh, you must now return the legitimate share to Yudhishthir, who has no enemies and who has been forbearing. He was very titikshasva. He is very tolerant for whatever sufferings he has been going through due to your offenses. He is waiting with his younger brothers, among whom is the revengeful Bhima, breathing heavily like a snake. Surely you are afraid of him. Huh? In the next verse, it makes more clear. He says, Lord Krishna has accepted Arjuna as his friend. Yeah, and all the kings of the world are with Lord Krishna. Hey, even if you think you can take a chance by fight by a war, he's saying everyone is supporting Krishna. He is present in his home with all his family members, the kings and princes of Yadu dynasty who have conquered an unlimited number of rulers, and he is their lord. Come on, can you fight against Krishna? Indirectly, Vidura is telling, if you will fight, if you do not accept the conditions of Pandavas, you have to face not just Pandavas but Krishna, who has all the kings with him. Vidura wanted to impress upon his elder brother that fighting with Pandavas was fraught with many dangers because they were supported by Krishna, who has conquered. Even in his childhood, demons like Kamsa and Jarasan and demigods like Brahma and Indra. Therefore, all universal power was behind Pandavas. Huh? Then he says, and forget about that. You are maintaining offense, personified Duryodhan as your infallible son, but he is envious of Lord Krishna. This is even very bad. Why? Again, this verse has so much to offer. Listen carefully. And because you are thus maintaining a non devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all pious qualities. Why? Because relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and go and do good to you, the whole family. Why? In purport, Prabhupada is mentioning that apatya. Apatya means a good son is called apatya, one who does not allow his father to fall down. The son can protect the father's soul when the father is dead by offering sacrifices to please the Supreme Lord Vishnu. This system is still prevalent in India. After the death of his father, a son goes to offer sacrifice at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu at Gaya and thus delivers the father's soul if the father is fallen. But if the son is already an enemy of Vishnu, here Vidura is actually bringing this point to tell, don't have so much hopes on Duryodhan. uh, if you are impious, don't expect that your son is going to favor you. But if the son is already an enemy of Vishnu, because Duryodhan is very envious of Krishna, so how in such an inimical mood can he offer sacrifice unto Lord Vishnu's lotus feet? Lord Krishna is directly the personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and Duryodhan was inimical to him. He would therefore be unable to protect his father, Dhritarashtra, after his death. He himself was to fall down because of his faithlessness towards Vishnu. So, saying so, according to the moral instruction of Chanakya Pandit, what is the use of a son who is neither a learned man nor a devotee of Lord? If a son is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, he is just like blind eyes, a source of trouble. So anyway, to go further, yeah. So while speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhana. This is the who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. He couldn't hear such nice consultation that Vidurji is giving to Dhritarashtra. Duryodhan was in company of Karna and because he was influenced by his Mamaji, maternal uncle Shakuni. In the purport, again, it is said that giving good counsel to a foolish person causes fool to become angry, just as feeding milk to a snake only increases its venomous poison. I mean, I was always thinking, how can a milk can increase the poison? But actually, what we are doing is when a snake is fed milk, it is getting nourishment, it is becoming more nourished, means the poison of a snake is also more powerful or becomes more effective. That's what Saint Vidura was so honorable that his character was looked up to all, to by all respectable persons. But Duryodhan was so foolish that he dared to insult Vidura. This was due to his bad association with Shakuni, as well as with his friend Karna, who always encouraged Duryodhan in his nefarious acts. And then ka enam atro juhava jihvam. Now he's saying, who asked him to come here? The son of a kept mistress. This is too much, yeah. First of all, etiquette is to respect elders. Forget about who is born to whom, but elders to be respected always. But Duryodhan, out of great anger, he said, he is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemies against those on whose support he has grown up. Means he's saying, yeah, he is protected here, but he's supporting being a spy to the Pandavas. Toss him out of this palace immediately and leave him with only his breath. Don't give any support. Why? Because he is addressed as Dasi Putra. Huh? And because of that, the King Dhritarashtra was very affectionate toward his younger brother Vidura, and Vidura was also great friend and philosophical advisor to Dhritarashtra. But Duryodhana knew very well that Vidura was a great soul and well-wisher, but unfortunately he was strong. He used strong words to hurt his uncle. Why? Because by insulting that way, a person who is very what do you call modest? Is it noble doesn't accept such kind of insults, so he may leave. That is the purpose of Duryodhan. He has used such harsh words. So that is what is said in the purports in the last. Such is the situation of palace life and intricacies of diplomacy, that even a faultless person like Vidura could be charged with something abominable and punished. Vidura was struck with wonder at such unexpected behavior from his Duryodhan, and he decided to leave the palace. Did I cover a very important verse? It comes. The next one is very nice. Verse number 16, in case you're following. Thus, being pierced by the arrows through his ears, now Vidura simply he thought, okay, now the time has come. Now I can't. Whatever I tried. I've been giving counseling, everything. I've been there, whatever. But I think it's not going to change. Why? Because the ambitions of brother is different. He was not sorry. This is very important to note. Sayitam Atyulbana Karna Bhaner. These were so piercing, but Gata Yato Yad Uru Manayanaha. This is very important. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of external energy to be supreme. He is thinking, I have tried, I have tried, I have tried. I think once, I think Keshav Maharaj was giving, or some other Maharaj he was mentioning. Sometimes we may try so much, but it doesn't happen. Yeah, we have to understand it is the external energy is so strong. The Mahamaya where we are under is so strong. He's saying that maybe because of that everything is going on. So I tried my part, it didn't work, it won't work, so he gave up. And in the purport, Prabhupada is saying, a pure devotee of Lord is never perturbed by an awkward position created by the external energy of the Lord. Prakrite kriyamanani gunakarmani sarvasaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Sometimes what may happen is because of this Maya or the external energy influence, what we do, whatever we are doing, we thinking, I am the person who am I doing. Out of what? Ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. A conditioned soul is absorbed in material existence under the influence of different modes of external energy. Therefore, the conditioned soul is fully under the control of law of the Lord. But due to illusion only, he thinks himself independent in activities. Duryodhan was acting under such influence of external nature, by which he would vanquish at the ultimate end. He could not accept the advice of Vidura, but on the contrary, he insulted that great soul who was well wisher of his whole family. I think the last part of this purport is very nice, which is saying the word gata vyataha means without being sorry. is significant here because Vidura was relieved from the tribulations which trouble every man entangled in material activities. When we are in material life, there is always some kind of responsibility, some kind of social obligation, some kind of family tradition, whatnot. So many. He therefore thought that there was no need to defend his brother with his bow because his brother was meant for ruination. When it is very sure that one person is not at all taking advice, which means whatever good piety he has is gone and whatever good counsel is not going inside, so he is destined for ruination, yeah. And there is nothing much one can do. Thus he left the palace before Duryodhan could act, huh? And then this last line is very nice. Maya, the supreme energy of the Lord, acted both internally and externally. When Prabhupada is writing, he is writing that this Maya, which is the energy of the Lord, acted here both internally and externally. Huh? What does that mean? It means the will of the Lord, huh? The will of the Lord, which is his Antaranga Shakti, means what the Lord wants, that's what happens. And Bahiranga Shakti, the external energy, this whatever this incident, the scene that has been happening, which is according to the influence of the external energy, that is also influencing that Vidura had to finally leave home. So we can see the life in the life of a devotee how the Lord exclusively handles his his destiny. Yeah, this is what we can see. By his piety, Vidura achieved the advantages of pious Kauravas. Huh? After leaving Hastinapur, he took shelter of many pilgrimages. Huh? And why did he do that? Because he was very humble, with a desire to gain high order of pious life. He was all, though he was such a great, excellent advisor, such a great noble person, huh? But he considers himself that yeah, yes, I am born of a mm, servant, dasi, putra, and he wants to go to pilgrimages with a desire to gain a higher order of pious life. He traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated. Purport again. To have high parentage, to possess wealth, to be highly learned, and to have great personal beauty are all due to past pious acts. But such pious possessions are not sufficient for obtaining the grace of the Lord and being engaged in his transcendental loving service. It's not at all possible. It is only possible if we take in the footsteps of Vidura. Vidura considered himself less pious and therefore he decided to travel to all the great places of pilgrimages in the world in order to achieve greater piety and advance nearer to the Lord. Huh? So that should be the whole purpose of going on a pilgrimage. One cannot be 100% devoted to the Lord unless and until he completely free from all effects of sin. Vidura was conscious that by association of diplomatic Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, he had lost his piety and was therefore not fit to associate at once with the Lord. Huh? So that's why he understood that, yeah, because of all this service, material activities that I have been doing, I have definitely committed something sins. So let me purify myself. So that is the spirit. So places of pilgrimages are meant for eradicating the sins of the pilgrims, and they are distributed all over the universe just to give facility to all concerned for attaining pure existence and God realization. Again, this purport number, please read if you want to make a note 17. It also has a very nice description about Archa Murti. Yeah? Why are we worshipping the Lord in the deity form in the temple? This is mentioned here. Hmm. These forms are called Murtis or forms of the Lord which can be easily approachable by the common man. Hmm. That goes further. There is also the mention about the Lord is present at Mathura, the birthplace of Lord Krishna, as Adi Keshava. The Lord is present as Puri as Lord Jagannath, also known as Purushottam. He is present at Allahabad, Prayag, as Bindu Mahadava, at Mandar Mandara Hill, he is present as Madhusudana. In Anandaranya, he is known as Vasudeva, Padmanabha, and Janardhana. At Vishnu Kanchi, he is known as Vishnu, and at Mayapur, he is known as Hari. There are millions and billions of such archa forms of the Lord distributed all over the universe. All these archa murtis are summarized in Chaitanya Charitamrita in the following words. What is that? Sarvatra prakasha tandya tarna bhakte shuka dite jagatera adharma nasi dharma sthapite. The Lord has so distributed himself all over the universe just to give pleasure to the devotees, to give the common man facility to eradicate his sins, and to establish religious principles in the world. And so he went to all the places. He went to Ayodhya, Dwaraka, Mathura. He traveled where the groves, hill, orchard, rivers, lakes are there. Thus he performed pilgrim's progress. Everything he did while so traversing the earth, he simply performed duties to please the Lord Hari. This is the only job. His occupation was pure and independent. He was constantly sanctified by taking his bath in holy places. Although he was in the dress of a mendicant and had no hair, dressing, nor a bed on which to lie, thus he was always unseen by his various relatives. In the purport, it says, the first and foremost duty of a pilgrim is to satisfy the Supreme Lord, Hari. While traveling as a pilgrim, one should not be worried about pleasing society. There is no need to depend on social formalities or occupation or dress. One should remain always absorbed in the function of pleasing the Lord. Thus, sanctified by thought and action, one is able to realize the Supreme by the process of a pilgrim's journey. Thus, when he was in the land of Bharatavarsha, traveling all over the places, he visited Prabhas Kshetra. At that time, Maharaj Yudhishthir was the empire and held the world under one military flag. Yeah? And I think I'll stop after this verse or the next verse. At the place of pilgrim at Prabhasa, it came to his knowledge that all his relatives have died due to violent passion, which is this. What happened, Kurukshetra war, just as an entire forest burns due to fire produced by friction of bamboos. After this, he proceeded west where the river Saraswati flows. There, he went to the pilgrim places, and then there were also many other temples that he visited, and then all wherever he went, he was looking all those emblems which reminded him one always of the original person, Krishna. I'll stop here. Thank you very much for your time. Yeah. So as I said, it's not practical to cover for a good reason that entire chapter can be covered. Sorry for that. Yeah. Any thoughts, questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, thanks for this session, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you kind of mentioned that this Lord's external energy, internal energy, it kind of creates problems so that a devotee moves out. Maybe it was too fast for me. I didn't follow that, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Mhm. So when things happen in devotee's life, we can see that everything is under his control, under the Supreme Lord's control, which we can see is as internal potency of the Lord, which is his Yoga Maya. And but it can also we see that okay, there is something of external energy where Duryodhana he was conducting out of lack of his piety, whatever he was doing. So we can see a scenario where this was done, yeah, because of two things at same time, external and internal energies. Yeah, you're getting?
Yes, Prabhuji. So both the energies are of the Lord, Prabhuji.
Yes. Both in fact, I mean, not only both, every energy is from the Lord only. Here we can see that usually we see how Mahamaya makes us forget Lord. Hmm?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
So that's what it means.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Okay. Then Yeah, thank you very much for staying long in case you have time. पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः वच पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नमाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। ताय गौर प्रेमानंद। हरि हरे कृष्ण।